The rain hammered the windshield like accusations Adriana had long stopped answering, turning the empty parking lot of Monroe's lone all-night Piggly Wiggly into a blurred watercolor of regret. She gripped the steering wheel of her father's old Ford pickup, knuckles white as bone, whispering to the dashboard, "Just milk and bread, that's all. In and out." But as she pushed through the automatic doors, the chime echoed like a siren's call, and there, behind Register 3, stood a woman whose smile sliced through the fluorescent hum. A quiet revolution in the dead of night. That smile lingered in Adriana's chest like smoke from a fire she hadn't known was burning, pulling her forward past shelves of canned peaches and faded cereal boxes, her boots leaving wet prints on the linoleum that no one would mop until dawn. The woman Alara, her name tag read, in looping script that suggested stories etched in invisible ink, tilted her head, eyes the color of storm-tossed bayou water meeting Adriana's gaze without flinching. "Rough night?" Alara asked, voice soft as Spanish moss. And in that moment, the world tilted, spilling secrets Adriana had buried under layers of duty and dust. Adriana Morales had always measured her life in the straight lines of expectation, the family ranch sprawling like a stubborn scar across the Louisiana backwoods, the church steeple piercing Sunday skies with its unyielding gaze, and the invisible fence of her parents' pride, forged from generations of Catholic grit and the kind of Southern honor that demanded silence over scandal. At 32, she was the dutiful daughter, the one who mended fences and balanced ledgers, her days a rhythm of feed buckets and foreclosure notices that her father, Ramon, pretended not to see. He sat now in the ranch house kitchen, his calloused hands wrapped around a coffee mug chipped from too many unspoken apologies, staring at the ledger she'd left open on the oak table. "We're hanging on, Mija," he'd say, but his eyes, dark mirrors of her own, betrayed the lie. The bank calls came like clockwork, and Adriana's freelance graphic design gigs from the city barely patched the holes. Tonight, though, the storm had cracked something deeper. A voicemail from her ex, Tomas, the high school sweetheart her mother, Sophia, had paraded as the perfect match until the wedding that never happened. "I saw your folks at Massachusetts. They miss you, dear. We all do." His voice, oily with that old charm, had slithered through her phone speaker while she stared at the ceiling fan's lazy spin. Miss her? Or miss the version of her that fit neatly into their Monroe tableau? The girl who laughed at their jokes, who nodded at whispers about those city types, ruining the town's moral fiber. The kind of town where the annual crawfish boil doubled as a loyalty test, and where folks like the Morales family, landowners since the Spanish grants, were expected to uphold the invisible code. Marry right, breed heirs, bury your truths under magnolia blooms. She'd driven out here on impulse, the pickup's wipers slapping futilely against the downpour, because the fridge held nothing but echoes of her mother's tamales, now as stale as the life they represented. The supermarket's automatic doors whooshed her inside, and the air hit her like a confession booth, cool, sterile, laced with the faint tang of bleach and desperation. Midnight shoppers were ghosts. A trucker nursing a six-pack of off-brand beer, an old woman clutching cat food like a talisman. Adriana grabbed a basket, the metal handle cold against her palm, and wandered the aisles, her reflection fragmented in the glass doors of the dairy case. That's when the smile happened. Not the perfunctory curl of lips that cashiers offered like change, but a genuine curve, slow and knowing, as if Alara had been waiting for her specifically. Adriana approached the register with her meager whole gallon of 2% milk, a loaf of Wonder Bread, a pack of Marlboros she didn't smoke but craved the ritual of, and set it down with the care of someone laying down arms. Alara scanned the items, her fingers deft on the keys, nails painted a chipped midnight blue that caught the light like secrets. "Storm's a beast tonight," Alara said, glancing up. "You from around here? That truck's got Morales ranch plates." Adriana froze, the nameplate on her chest suddenly a brand. "Yeah, just needed a break from the thunder." It was a half-truth, but Alara's eyes held no judgment, only a flicker of recognition that warmed the chill in Adriana's bones. Up close, Alara was younger, mid-20s maybe, with hair pulled into a ponytail the color of wet sand, strands escaping like whispers. Her uniform, a faded green smock over jeans worn thin at the knees, hung loose, but it was the way she leaned in, elbows on the counter, that made the space between them feel intimate, charged. "Breaks are good," Alara replied. bagging the bread with a gentleness that bordered on reverence. I'm Alara Voss. Night shifts my domain. Keeps the ghosts at bay. She handed over the receipt, her fingers brushing Adriana's for the briefest second. A spark that raced up Adriana's arm like lightning finally striking home. Voss. Adriana turned the name over in her mind, unfamiliar yet resonant, like a song half remembered from a childhood radio. Not a local name, not tied to the old families that mapped Monroe's social minefield. Thanks, Adriana murmured, pocketing the change. But as she turned to leave, Alara called after her, voice threading through the store's hum. Hey, milk's on sale after 10. You got the discount. Come back when the rain lets up. We've got better coffee than the slop in the break room. It was nothing, a throwaway line from a stranger. But Adriana paused at the doors, rain sheeting the glass like tears held back too long, and felt the pull, a gravity she hadn't known since she was 18. Sneaking glances at the girls' softball team from the bleachers, her heart a traitor in the shadow of the cross. She nodded once and stepped into the storm, the smile replaying in her mind like a reel she couldn't pause. Back at the ranch, the house was dark save for the porch light Sophia left burning like a vigil. Adriana slipped inside, milk carton sweating in her arms, and found her mother awake in the living room, rosary beads clicking softly between her fingers. Mija, it's late. Everything all right? Sophia's voice was a blend of concern and command, her face lined from years of bending to Ramon's silences. Fine, Mama. Just the weather. Adriana set the groceries down, avoiding the mirror above the sideboard where her reflection stared back. Eyes shadowed, lips pressed thin against the words she never spoke. Tomas again, Sophia would say if she knew. Or worse, nothing at all, the silence that had driven Adriana to design school in Baton Rouge, only to return when the cancer scare with Ramon pulled her back like a riptide. Sophia rose, smoothing her housecoat, and pulled Adriana into a hug that smelled of lavender and unspoken fears. Pray on it, dear. The Lord's got a plan. Adriana nodded into her shoulder, the lie settling heavy in her throat. If God had a plan, it felt more like a cage, gilded with family crests and community nods. Sleep came, fitful dreams tangled with bayou mists and that smile, Alara's smile, illuminating paths Adriana had long since boarded up. Dawn broke gray and sodden, the ranch hands arriving with their thermoses and wary glances at the flooded fields. Adriana threw herself into the day, repairing a sagging barn door, tallying hay bales, fielding a call from the bank that left her voice steady but her hands shaking. By afternoon the sun cracked through, steam rising from the earth like ghosts fleeing the light. She told herself it was the coffee that drew her back to the Piggly Wiggly that evening, not the memory of chipped blue nails or eyes that saw without prying. The store was brighter now, post-rush hour quiet settling like dust. Alara was there again, restocking gum at the counter, her laugh carrying over the muzak as she bantered with a regular about the Saints' latest loss. Adriana lingered by the magazines, pretending interest in a glossy about New Orleans jazz, her pulse a drumbeat she couldn't quiet. When she approached with a single black coffee from the machine, bitter as regret, Alara's face lit up, that smile unfolding like a flower in moonlight. Knew you'd come back. How's the thunder? Gone, Adriana said, and it felt true for the first time that day. They talked then, words spilling easy as the bayou after rain, about the ranch's endless demands, Alara's shift from Seattle 3 years back after her own family fractures, the way Monroe's humidity clung like judgment. Alara's story emerged in fragments. A mother lost to the bottle. A father who preached fire and brimstone from a pulpit that echoed too close to Sophia's devotions. I landed here because it's cheap and the nights are long enough to think without drowning, Alara admitted, wiping the counter with a rag that smelled faintly of pine. Adriana sipped her coffee, the steam curling between them like a veil. Thinking's dangerous in a town like this. It was the closest she'd come to admitting her own hidden currents, the way her designs, bold abstracts sold online to faceless buyers, were the only place she let color bleed free. Alara leaned closer, voice dropping to a conspiratorial hush. That's why I like the graveyard shift. No one to tell you what's dangerous. Her gaze held Adriana's, steady and searching, and in that shared silence something shifted. A door creaking open in Adriana's chest, light spilling where shadows had reigned. They parted with numbers exchanged on a crumpled receipt, Ilara's handwriting looping like vines. Driving home under a sky-bruising purple, Adriana felt the first stirrings of possibility, fragile as a moth against glass. But as the ranch lights flickered into view, so did the weight. Ramon's truck in the drive, Sophia's silhouette in the window, the Morales name etched in stone, and expectation. One smile and her world had cracked. What would a conversation do? The text started innocently enough, like pebbles skipped across still water. Ilara sending a photo of the store's flickering neon sign at 2 a.m., captioned "My kingdom for a real latte," and Adriana replying with a snapshot of the ranch's pecan grove at dawn. Harvest therapy beats caffeine. Days blurred into a quiet rhythm, Adriana's phone buzzing in her pocket during fence mending or invoice stamping, each ping a lifeline to a world beyond the ranch's barbed boundaries. She found herself lingering over breakfast, Sophia's questions about that city work met with vague nods, while her mind replayed Ilara's laugh, low and unfiltered, like jazz spilling from a Delta juke joint. Monroe unfolded around them in its familiar cruelties. The annual Founders' Day parade where old money families like the Hargroves preened in convertibles, tossing beads to children who dreamed of escape, while whispers slithered about outsiders diluting the bloodlines. Adriana's family teetered on that edge, respected for the land, pitted for the debts, and she bore the brunt, fielding invitations to church suppers where Tomas's mother, Elena, cornered her with honeyed barbs. Such a catch, that boy. Still carrying a torch. Elena's smile was a blade wrapped in lace, her eyes scanning Adriana for cracks in the facade. One humid Tuesday, after a morning spent wrangling a lame colt under Ramon's watchful eye, his cough worsening, the doctor's unspoken verdict hanging like humidity, Adriana drove into town for feed and found herself at the Piggly Wiggly again. Ilara was off shift, but her text arrived mid-aisle. Stuck late. Fancy a walk by the levee after? Moon's full, bugs be damned. Adriana's thumbs hovered, heart a wild thing in her ribs before typing back. Meet you at the old swing bridge. 9. The levee stretched along the Washita River like a vein pulsing with the town's forgotten pulse, willows draping their branches in mournful arches. Adriana arrived early, boots sinking into the mud, the air thick with frog chorus and the distant hum of semis on Highway 165. She leaned against the rusted railing of the swing bridge, a relic from the 40s that swayed gently with the current below, and let the evening unravel her defenses. The river mirrored the sky's deepening indigo, stars pricking through like hesitant confessions. Ilara appeared from the shadows, backpack slung over one shoulder, her stride loose and unhurried. You beat me. Nervous. She teased, but her eyes softened as they fell into step, the bridge creaking underfoot like an old friend's welcome. Always, Adriana admitted, the word slipping free before she could cage it. They walked the towpath, conversation meandering like the water. Ilara's sketches, pencil drawings of Seattle's fog-shrouded piers she'd left behind, mirroring Adriana's digital canvases of fractured skies and hidden blooms. Art's rebellion, Ilara said, pulling a worn notebook from her bag, flipping to a page of swirling lines that evoked both chaos and calm. Keeps me sane when the register dings feel like chains. Adriana traced the edge of the page with her fingertip, the paper's texture rough as truth. Mine's the same. Designs for strangers who never see the ache in the colors. Vulnerability bloomed between them, fragile and fierce, as they settled on a driftwood log, the river lapping secrets at their feet. Ilara shared fragments of her fracture, coming out in a Seattle rainstorm, her father's Bible-thumping fury driving her south, where anonymity was a kinder cage. Monroe's got its own Bible Belt chokehold, she said, voice laced with wry bitterness. But at least the sweet tea's better. Adriana's throat tightened, the words she'd swallowed for years rising like bile. My family's the chokehold. Papa's health, Mama's faith. It's all tangled in what's proper. She paused, the air between them thickening. And then there's me, the daughter who never quite fit the dress. Ilara turned, her profile silvered by moonlight, and reached out, not to touch but to offer the notebook. Draw something. Right now. Show me the you that doesn't fit. Adriana took the pencil, her hand trembling slightly as she sketched. Bold strokes forming a woman breaking free from thorny vines, wings unfurling in jagged glory. Alara watched silent, then murmured, "Beautiful. Like you." The compliment hung electric, and when their shoulders brushed, Adriana didn't pull away. They talked until the moon arced high, Alara's stories of West Coast freedoms clashing with Adriana's rooted tales of Delta resilience, forging a bridge of their own. As they parted at her truck, Alara's hand grazed Adriana's arm. Deliberate this time, warm and lingering. "This doesn't have to be just walks, Dara. If you want more." Adriana drove home with the windows down. Wind whipping her hair, Alara's scent. Faint citrus and earth, clinging to her skin. The ranch slept under a quilt of stars, but Sophia's light burned in the kitchen window. Inside, her mother waited with tea and questions. "Late again, Mija? Work?" "Something like that." Adriana's voice steadied, but her reflection in the window betrayed her. Eyes alive, lips curved in a secret smile. The weeks that followed wove them tighter. Stolen lunches at the diner's back booth, where Alara smuggled sketches and Adriana shared playlists of Lucinda Williams ballads that ached with unspoken longing. Texts evolved into calls, Alara's voice a bomb after Ramon's coughing fits or Sophia's pointed sighs over the empty chair at family dinners. Tomas circled like a shadow, his texts resuming with feigned concern. "Heard you're burning the midnight oil. Let me help with the ranch." Adriana deleted them unread, but guilt gnawed. A betrayal not of him, but of the life scripted for her. One crisp autumn evening, as leaves turned the levee path to fire, Alara led her to a hidden bend where the river widened into a lazy pool. "Picnic," she announced, unpacking cheese, crackers, and a thermos of spike cider from her backpack. They spread a blanket on the grass, the world narrowing to the space between them. Conversation turned intimate, Alara confessing her first love. A barista with tattoos like maps, lost to distance and doubt. Adriana unspooling the thread of her own silences, the crushes buried under cheerleader cheers and prom corsages. "You're brave," Alara said, passing the cider, their fingers intertwining this time, natural as breath. "Staying here, fighting for air." Adriana shook her head, the touch sending warmth pooling in her veins. "Brave or trapped? Sometimes I can't tell." But as Alara leaned in, their foreheads touching, the line blurred into something sacred. The kiss came soft, tentative, a brush of lips that deepened like the river's current, pulling Adriana under. It tasted of cider and courage, Alara's hand cupping her cheek with a tenderness that shattered the last of her walls. They broke apart breathless, laughter bubbling up like relief. "Worth the wait," Alara whispered, and Adriana believed her, for that night at least. But dawn brought the ranch's demands. A fence line breached by deer, Ramon's fever spiking, Sophia's rosary clicking faster. Adriana slipped into her role, the kiss a hidden ember, but it burned brighter with each stolen glance at her phone. Alara's message that morning. A heart emoji, simple and defiant. Adriana replied with one of her own, the gesture feeling like a vow. Yet cracks formed. At church that Sunday, Father Landry's sermon on unnatural affections landed like stones, Sophia's grip tightening on Adriana's arm. Tomas lingered after Mass, his smile too wide. "Looking good, dear eye. We should catch up, proper-like." His eyes flicked to Alara's truck parked innocently across the street, where she dropped Adriana off with a wave. Paranoia flickered, but Adriana brushed it off, focusing on the potluck spread. Fried chicken and gossip thick as gravy. Alara met her eyes from the edge of the crowd, a silent anchor. But as they drove away together, the rear view showed Monroe shrinking, its judgments trailing like dust. Winter crept into Monroe like an uninvited guest, frosting the bayou's edges and turning the ranch's mornings to brittle glass. Adriana and Alara's world had softened into a secret season of its own. Drives along backroads where cotton fields lay fallow, hands clasped over the gearshift. Evenings in Alara's cramped apartment above the hardware store, where sketchpads and laptops spilled across the floor like shared dreams. There, away from prying eyes, Adriana let her guard dissolve, tracing Alara's collarbone with fingertips, whispering fears into the curve of her neck, their bodies moving in a language of rediscovery that healed old wounds. Alara's space was a sanctuary of salvaged beauty, mismatched bookshelves groaning with dog-eared Kerouac and Audre Lorde, walls papered in her charcoal drawings of women unbound, fierce, fluid lines that mirrored the freedom Adriana tasted in her arms. "This is us," Elara murmured one night, as they tangled in sheets worn thin from too many launderings, the radiator hissing like applause. Adriana arched into her touch, the world beyond the window, Monroe's neon-lit main street, fading to irrelevance. But the town had eyes everywhere, and whispers traveled faster than the winter wind. Adriana noticed them first at the feed store. Old Mr. Thibodeau's sidelong glance when she loaded sacks into her truck, his mutter about city influences hanging in the air. Sophia's questions sharpened too, laced with the perfume of suspicion. "Who's this friend keeping you out so late, Dorai? Not that Tomas boy, I hope." Adriana deflected with half-truths, work deadlines, late shifts, but the lie sat heavier each time, a stone in her gut. Ramon's health faltered further, the cough evolving into nights of labored breath, his frame shrinking under flannel shirts that once strained at the seams. Adriana took on more, her design suffering as deadlines loomed and inspirations dried. Elara became her refuge, their dates evolving into quiet vigils. Picnics in the truck bed under star-pricked skies, Elara's head on her lap as she read aloud from forbidden poets, Sappho fragments that made Adriana's skin hum. One sleet-lashed afternoon, after a doctor's visit that confirmed the pneumonia's stubborn grip, Adriana found Elara waiting at the ranch gate, thermos in hand. "Heard about your papa. Thought you could use this." Chicken soup, steaming and spiced with memories of Elara's grandmother's recipes. They sat on the porch swing, the chains creaking in rhythm with Ramon's distant snores, and talked of futures fragile as frost. "What if we left?" Elara ventured, her breath clouding the air. "New Orleans, maybe. Or Austin. Places where smiles like ours don't need hiding." Adriana's heart clenched, torn between the pull of escape and the roots that anchored her. "Papa needs me. And Mama." She'd shatter. But Elara's hand on hers was a promise, warm against the chill. "Then we fight from here. One breath at a time." Their bond deepened in stolen intimacies. A weekend at a roadside cabin Elara found on a map app, 2 hours north in the piney woods, where snow dusted the eaves and they built a fire of pine cones and possibility. There, unclothed and unashamed, Adriana voiced the ache she'd carried since girlhood. The pressure to embody the Morales legacy. The daughter who would marry land to land, heal feuds with alliances. "Tomas was their choice, not mine," she confessed, tears tracing paths down her cheeks as Elara held her. "He knew in the end. That's why he left." Elara kissed the salt from her skin. "He was blind. But I see you, all of you." Their lovemaking that night was a reclamation, slow and sacred, bodies mapping territories long denied. Dawn found them wrapped in quilts, planning in whispers. A joint art show in Shreveport, perhaps, or Elara applying for gallery work in the city. Return brought reality's bite. At the Piggly Wiggly, Elara's manager, a sour-faced man named Hargrove, kin to the parade preeners, docked her hours citing distractions. Whispers reached Adriana via the church ladies. "That Voss girl stirring up trouble. Heard she's. You know." The word hung unspoken, but its venom poisoned the air. Tomas reappeared like a specter, cornering her at the post office amid stacks of foreclosure threats. "Saw you with her, dear eye. The cashier. Folks are talking." His face twisted, not with anger but something uglier, betrayal masked as concern. "Your parents deserve better. We all do." Adriana's blood ran cold, the receipts in her pocket suddenly damning. "Mind your own, Tomas. This town's got enough ghosts without you summoning them." But the seed was planted. That evening, Sophia confronted her over dinner, Ramon dozing in his chair, the TV droning a Saints rerun. "Elena called. Said she saw you. Close with that girl. Elara." The name dropped like an indictment, Sophia's eyes pleading and fierce. "Mija, what are we to think? The church, the family. It's not right." Adriana's fork clattered, appetite fleeing. "It's my life, Mama. Not a scandal sheet." The words escaped sharp, and Sophia recoiled as if slapped. "Your life is ours too. The ranch, the name, everything Papa built. Don't throw it away for whatever this is." The argument simmered into silence, Adriana storming to her room, phone clutched like a shield. Elara's call came late, voice a lifeline through tears. "They know." Alara asked, and Adriana nodded into the dark, the confession spilling, the confrontation, the fear coiling like kudzu. "We'll weather it," Alara soothed, but doubt threaded her tone. They met at the levee under a brittle moon, embracing fiercely against the wind's howl. "I love you," Adriana whispered, the words a leap into abyss. Alara pulled back, eyes shining. "And I you. But love's not enough if it costs your world." It was the first fracture, a hairline crack in their foundation. Spring teased at the edges, dogwoods blooming defiant pink, but tension thickened. Adriana's designs surged with raw emotion. Canvases of thorns and triumphs sold to urban buyers who praised their authenticity. Alara's sketches darkened, figures shadowed by chains. They clung tighter, nights blurring into mornings of quiet defiance. Coffee in bed, fingers laced, plotting escapes that remained dreams. Then came the invitation. The Hargrove Gala's spring soiree. A black tie affair at the old plantation house where old money mingled and alliances sealed. Sophia pressed, "Go with Tomas. Show them we're solid." Adriana refused, attending alone in a simple black dress that felt like armor. There, amid crystal clinks and jazz quartets, Tomas pulled her aside, breath hot with bourbon. "End it, Dri, or I'll make sure everyone knows what you're really about." Threat hung heavy, but Adriana's chin lifted. "Try me." She slipped away, texting Alara, "Need you. Now." They met in the garden shadows, Alara's arms a harbor, their kiss a rebellion under lantern light. But as fireworks burst overhead, illuminating faces turned away, Adriana felt the news tighten. Love's bloom strangled by the town's thorny embrace. Summer scorched Monroe into submission, the air a thick stew of heat and hidden resentments, cicadas screaming their endless litany from the oaks. Adriana's world narrowed to a battlefield. The ranch's irrigation lines bursting under drought strain, Ramon's treatments draining accounts to whispers, and the Morales name fraying at the edges like old rope. Sophia's silences grew pointed, rosary beads clicking like accusations, while church bulletins arrived with circled sermons on family sanctity. Adriana buried herself in work, designs flying to clients in Atlanta and Austin, each sale a small victory. But the nights belonged to Alara, their love a fever that burned brighter against the gathering storm. They carved out pockets of defiance. Midnight swims in the river's hidden coves, water cool as absolution against sweat-slick skin. Drives to abandoned mills where they danced to radio static, Alara's laughter a melody that drowned the doubts. "We're building something real," Alara insisted one twilight, as they lay in the truck bed, fireflies winking like conspirators. Adriana traced constellations on her palm, the stars above mirroring the map of their scars. Real as this town allows. But the town was closing in. Tomas's threats morphed into actions. Anonymous notes slipped under the ranch gate. Sodom's daughters beware. And tire tracks too fresh on the levee path after their walks. Alara's hours at the Piggly Wiggly dwindled further, Hargrove's glares turning to outright barbs. "Keep your personal life personal, Voss. We got standards here." She confided in Adriana over takeout gumbo in her apartment, voice edged with steel. "I'm interviewing in Baton Rouge next week. Gallery assistant. If I get it." The if lodged like a thorn. Adriana pulled her close, their embrace fierce. "Then we go. Together." But the words tasted of compromise, her father's frail form haunting the promise. The breaking point came unannounced. A humid Friday when thunderheads massed like judgment. Adriana returned from a supply run to find Sophia in the kitchen, Tomas at her side. His arm around her shoulders like a claim staked. Ramon's chair empty, the ledger open to red ink. "Papa's at the clinic," Sophia said, voice quavering. "And this boy came to help. To talk sense." Tomas's eyes gleamed, triumphant. "Told your mama everything, Dura. The walks, the looks. That apartment of hers. It's poison for you, for the family." Sophia's face crumpled, tears carving paths through powder. "How could you, Mija? After all we've sacrificed. The ranch, the faith. It's crumbling and you chase shadows." Adriana's world tilted, rage and grief colliding. "Shadows? This is my heart, Mama. Alara sees me, truly sees when you all look away." The confession erupted, raw and unfiltered, Tomas's scoff cutting through. "Heart? It's sin plain. I'll stand by you dur I marry you proper. Save the name. She laughed, bitter as chicory. Save it for yourself. Storming out, she drove to Alara's, pounding the door until it yielded. Alara pulled her inside, arms enveloping the sobs that racked her. They know. Tomas told. It's over, everything. Alara held her through the night, words weaving a fragile net. Not us. Never us. But dawn brought Sophia's call, Ramon's fever breaking, but his disappointment a deeper wound. Come home, dear. We pray this away. Adriana returned, the ranch a mausoleum of expectations. Days blurred into truces. Sophia's averted eyes, Ramon's weak hand squeezes, Tomas's visits like salt in wounds. Alara became a ghost. Texts sparse, meetings furtive in library corners or truck stops on the outskirts. Their touches turned desperate, kisses laced with farewell, love's fire guttering under pressure's weight. Alara's interview loomed, a beacon and a blade. Baton Rouge has space for us, she urged during a stolen lunch, hands clasped under the diner table. A fresh start, galleries, no whispers. Adriana nodded, but the ranch's pull anchored her. Ramon's improving breath, Sophia's tentative olive branches of pozole and please. The gala's echo lingered, but a new event loomed, the Harvest Festival, Monroe's ritual of reconciliation where debts were tallied and graces extended. Sophia insisted. Go. Show unity. Adriana relented, attending with Tomas on her arm, a performance that twisted her gut. Alara watched from the crowd, her smile a mask cracking at the edges, pain flashing in Bayou eyes. That night, betrayal crested. After the bonfire's glow, Tomas cornered Alara near the parking lot, his voice slurring with moonshine victory. Adriana arrived in time to hear the tale. Stay away or I'll make sure she loses everything. The ranch, her folks, gone. Alara shoved him off, chin high, but when Adriana pulled her into the shadows, fury boiled. You let him touch you? Parade with him. Adriana recoiled, the accusation a slap. It was for show, for peace. You think I want this cage? Alara's tears fell hot. Then break it. Or we're just playing at freedom. The fight spilled raw. Adriana's fears of abandonment clashing with Alara's scars of rejection. Words weaponized in the dark. You're choosing them again, Alara accused, voice breaking. Adriana grabbed her wrist, desperate. No. I'm choosing us. But it hurts, all of it. They parted bruised, the festival's lights mocking their fracture. Adriana drove home alone, Tomas's text buzzing ignored. Told you. Come to your senses. Sophia waited with tea, eyes soft. He's a good man, Mija. Forgives easy. Forgiveness. The word mocked as Adriana lay awake, Alara's silence a void. Days stretched, their reconciliation a tentative thread. Apologies over coffee, promises renewed in the river's embrace. But the damage lingered, trust frayed like levee banks. Alara landed the job, Baton Rouge calling like a siren's song. 2 weeks, she said, packing boxes in her apartment, Adriana helping fold clothes scented with their shared nights. Come with me. Please. Adriana hesitated, Ramon's hand frail in hers that morning. Sophia's prayer for guidance echoing. I need time. To untangle this. Alara's nod was weary. Time's the thief here, Durai. Their goodbye kiss was a storm. Passionate, poignant. Leaving Adriana adrift in the quiet aftermath. Summer waned, the heat breaking into autumn's tentative cool. Adriana threw herself into the ranch, negotiating extensions with the bank, her designs earning enough for a buffer. But Alara's absence carved hollows, empty texts, the Piggly Wiggly's registers manned by strangers. Sophia noticed, her probes gentling. That girl. She hurt you. Adriana shook her head, the truth too vast. Love hurts, mama. But it's real. The confession hung, Sophia's silence a bridge half-built. Then the call. Alara, voice trembling from Baton Rouge. I can't do this alone. The city's loud, but without you. It's echo. Adriana's resolve cracked. I'm coming. Tonight. But Tomas intercepted, waiting at the ranch gate, Elena's car idling behind. Running away? After Sophia poured her heart out. His revelation landed like lightning. She knows everything. Begged me to save you. Betrayal's blade twisted, Sophia confiding in him? Adriana's world splintered. Driving through tears to the city, Ilara's arms her only harbor. They clung through the night, but dawn brought clarity's cruel edge. Love demanded sacrifice, and Adriana's was half paid. Autumn's palette bled across Louisiana's lowlands, russets and golds mocking the gray unraveling in Adriana's soul. As she navigated the fractured path back to Ilara, Baton Rouge sprawled before her like a fever dream. Jazz horns wailing from French Quarter alleys, riverboats churning the Mississippi into froth, galleries aglow with canvases that screamed freedoms Monroe only whispered. Ilara's apartment, a third-floor walk-up in the Garden District, overlooked oak-draped streets where history layered like sediment, mansions whispering of fortunes built on backs, now hosting artists who painted over the ghosts. Ilara greeted her at the door with eyes hollowed by waiting, pulling her into an embrace that tasted of salt and second chances. "You came," she breathed, and Adriana nodded against her shoulder. The drive's confessions, Sophia's betrayal via Tomas, the ranch's ledgers bleeding red, spilling in hushed torrents. They made love that afternoon, bodies a language of amends. Slow explorations that mapped forgiveness, Ilara's fingers tracing the tension from Adriana's spine, whispers weaving vows against the world's unraveling. But relocation was no elixir. Adriana commuted weekends, her truck devouring miles between Baton Rouge's pulse and Monroe's stagnation, each trip a tightrope over abyss. Ramon's recovery stalled, fevers cycling like betrayals. Sophia's calls a mix of pleas and recriminations. "Come home, Mija. This phase, it's passing." Tomas waits. The word phase sliced deep, reducing their love to a whim, while Tomas's shadows lengthened. Tips to the bank, whispers to church elders that turned neighbors' nods to stares. Ilara thrived in fragments. The gallery job a whirlwind of openings and critiques, her sketches evolving into bold installations that caught curators' eyes. "This city's alive," she'd say, dragging Adriana to rooftop bars where queer couples danced unapologetic under string lights. But success's shine highlighted the chasm, Ilara's invitations to stay permanent clashing with Adriana's tethers. "Sell the designs full-time," Ilara urged one night, as they strolled Magazine Street, past boutiques hawking dreams in velvet windows. "Cut the cord." Adriana's laugh was hollow. "The cord's my blood, Lara. Papa's fading, without me it's dust." Conflict simmered, their intimacies laced with urgency, as if each touch anticipated loss. Winter nipped early, frost etching Ilara's windows like warnings. Adriana arrived for a gallery show, Ilara's first solo exhibit titled Unmoored, to find the space thrumming. Patrons in tailored wool sipping Merlot, walls alive with her lover's visions, canvases of women adrift in storm seas, vines coiling into wings. Pride swelled as Ilara navigated the crowd, her midnight blue dress a nod to forgotten name tags, but jealousy flickered when a curator, sharp-suited, Seattle-accented, lingered too long, hand on Ilara's elbow. Later, in the afterglow of applause, Adriana confronted it over beignet at a corner cafe, powdered sugar dusting their confessions. "She's just networking," Ilara soothed, but Adriana's insecurities erupted. "Am I holding you back? The ranch, the miles. Am I the vine now?" Ilara's eyes flashed hurt. "You're my root. But roots rot if you don't let go." The argument echoed their first fracture, words escalating until Adriana stormed into the night, hailing a cab to a motel where regrets kept vigil. Reconciliation came halting. Ilara at dawn, coffee and apologies in hand, their makeup a tear-streaked pact. But the seed of doubt germinated. Back in Monroe, Adriana found the ranch besieged. Foreclosure notice nailed to the gate like a crucifixion, Sophia's face ashen. Tomas warned the bank, said we'd default without stability. Stability, code for his ring, his claim. Rage propelled Adriana to his door, the clapboard house glowing with false welcome. Tomas answered smug, Elena hovering like a sentinel. Did what was best, Dri. For the family. His hand extended a folder, loan terms sweetened by his influence. "Marry me, and it's yours." She slapped it away, voice steel. "Yours to wield like a whip." "No." Driving away, the betrayal crystallized. Not just Tomas but Sophia's complicity, her love conditional as alms. Alara's voice steadied her that night. A call from the gallery's closing shift. Come for good. I've got a lead on a studio space we share at build together. Adriana wavered, packing a bag in secret, but dawn brought Ramon's collapse. A stroke, the clinic's lights harsh as verdicts. She stayed, nursing him through delirium where he murmured apologies. Forgive me, Mija, for the weight I put on you. Sophia watched, broken, her rosary idol. I thought tradition would save us, she confessed one vigil-lit night. But it's chaining you. Adriana's tears fell. Love isn't a chain, Mama. It's the key. Sophia's hand trembled in hers, a fracture mending slow. Spring bloom treacherous, Alara's texts urgent. The city's pulling me under without you. Adriana visited, their reunion ablaze. Nights in the studio paint streaking skin as they created collaborative pieces of shattered glass and blooming thorns. But distance devoured. Missed calls, arguments over time zones of the heart. The climax shattered on a storm-swept May evening. Adriana, en route to Baton Rouge for Alara's big pitch, a joint exhibit proposal, swerved to aid a wreck on the interstate, only to arrive late, disheveled, to find Alara mid-conversation with the curator, laughter intimate as lovers. Paranoia ignited. Is this why? Someone who fits your new life. Alara recoiled, the pitch folder crumpling. You're the one drifting back to Monroe every crisis. Choosing duty over us. Truth landed brutal. Adriana's bag. Half-packed for permanence, forgotten in the truck. I was coming for good. But doubt poisoned the air, Alara's voice cracking. Then why does it feel like goodbye? They tore into each other. Adriana accusing abandonment, Alara betrayal's echo. Until Alara whispered the unspeakable. Maybe Tomas was right. Maybe we can't outrun this. The words eviscerated. Adriana fleeing to the riverfront. Rain mingling with sobs. Hours later, Alara found her soaked and shivering. I didn't mean it. Fear talking. They clung, but the wound suppurated, trust hemorrhaging. Back in Monroe, Adriana isolated, designs dark and dormant. Ramon's recovery a fragile thread. Sophia bridged tentatively. Go to her. Be free. But freedom's price loomed. The ranch auction whispers, Tomas's gloating calls. Alara's final text arrived like a dirge. Exhibits off. I'm heading west, Seattle maybe. Can't breathe here without breaking. Adriana drove through dawn, arriving to an empty apartment, Alara's note on the table. You changed me with one look. But some smiles fade. Forgive me. Devastation crashed, Adriana collapsing amid scattered sketches. Their shared dreams in ink and pixel. Betrayal's layers peeled. Tomas's machinations, Sophia's delays, her own hesitations. In the void, clarity stirred. A spark amid ruins. Summer returned to Louisiana like an absolution delayed. Heat waves shimmering over fields that mocked Adriana's barren resolve. Alara's departure carved a chasm, the apartment's echo haunting her weekends in Baton Rouge. Empty canvases staring like accusations, the Mississippi's churn a mirror to her turmoil. She sold the joint pieces at auction. The proceeds a bitter windfall that paid ranch debts but couldn't mend the heart's ledger. Back in Monroe the auction loomed. The Morales land parceled like regrets. Ramon's bed empty after a peaceful slip into sleep. His last words a murmured live true Mija. Sophia withered in the wake, her faith's armor cracked. Rosary beads gathering dust on the mantle. He knew, she confessed one sweltering afternoon, as they sifted his effects. Faded photos of Spanish ancestors, ledgers inked with stubborn pride. About you. About the weight. Forgave me for pushing. Adriana held her, the embrace a dam breaking. Tears for the father who'd silenced his own doubts to build theirs. For the mother who'd chosen tradition over truth. Tomas's victory soured. Whispers turned on him. His manipulations exposed when the bank clawed back favors. Elena's social circle cooling like chicory left too long. He confronted Adriana at the old levee, face gaunt with unraveling. I did it for love, dear. For us. She met his gaze, pity softening her steel. Love doesn't scheme. It frees. He slunk away, a shadow diminished, Monroe's judgment circling him now. In the wreckage, Adriana rebuilt. Slow, deliberate. She leased a studio in the city, her designs surging with raw humanity. Series titled Unchained, abstracts of vines yielding to flight, sold to collectors who sense the autobiography in the strokes. Sophia visited once, tentative, her eyes widening at the bold colors. "It's you," she whispered, a hand on Adriana's shoulder. "Acceptance's first bloom." Alara's trail led west. Social media glimpses of Seattle rains and gallery walls bearing her name, sketches softer now, laced with distance. Adriana wrote letters. Digital missives poured from the soul. Apologies for hesitations, celebrations of their fire. No replies came, but the act healed, words a bridge to self-forgiveness. Autumn deepened, leaves carpeting the ranch's remnants. Sophia opting for a cottage in town, the land sold but memories rooted. Adriana stood at the levee one fog-laced dawn, the swing bridge creaking like an old hymn, and scattered Ramon's ashes into the Washita's flow. "Rest easy, Papa. I found my way." The river carried him gentle, a current toward unseen shores. The turning came unbidden. A gallery invite from Seattle, Alara's exhibit, Echoes of South, featuring their collaborative ghosts. Adriana flew north, the plains hum a lullaby of nerves, landing in a city veined with evergreens and salt air. The space hummed intimate, patrons murmuring over canvases that bled Delta blues into Pacific grays. Alara at the center, hair loose, eyes storm deep. Their gaze locked across the room, time folding like paper. Alara approached, slow, voice a whisper. "You came." Adriana nodded, throat tight. "Had to see our echoes." Conversation flowed cautious. Alara's reinvention, teaching workshops to queer youth, sketches now community tapestries. Adriana's liberation, the studio thriving, Sophia's letters warming with pride. No grand reunion sparked, but a quiet accord. Coffee after, in a cafe overlooking the sound, waves lapping like unspoken regrets. "I waited," Alara admitted, stirring cream into black. "But waiting's a cage too." Adriana reached across, fingers brushing. "I broke mine. Late but true." They parted with numbers exchanged anew. No promises, only possibility. Adriana returned south renewed. The flight a soar of wings tested. Monroe greeted softer. Sophia's hug at the airport. A pot of gumbo simmering, church nods evolving to welcomes. Tomas faded to footnote, his apologies unread. Winter blanketed the bayou in rare snow. Adriana's studio aglow with holiday commissions. Portraits of families unbound. Loves declared in line and hue. Alara's package arrived mid-season. A sketch of the levee bridge, two figures hand in hand, inscribed, "Smiles endure." Adriana framed it beside her easel, a talisman. Spring unfurled, and with it Alara's visit. Unannounced, backpack slung, grin wide as the river. They walked the towpath, stories bridging the miles. Seattle's freedoms tempered by southern pulls. Adriana's roots now nourishing rather than binding. "I missed this," Alara said, as they paused at the driftwood log, hands entwining natural as breath. "And this," Adriana replied, pulling her close, the kiss a homecoming, tender, tempered by trials. No rush to merge worlds, instead, a rhythm of visits, collaborations via courier and call. Love matured in the kiln of loss. Sophia met her one weekend over tea on the porch, awkward at first, then easing into questions about the artist. Alara's charm disarmed, her tales of youth workshops drawing Sophia's nod. "Reminds me of you, Mija, fighting for light." Acceptance flowered, fragile but fierce. By summer's crest, they stood at the Piggly Wiggly slot, neon flickering nostalgic, as Adriana loaded Alara's car for a joint residency in New Orleans. "Changed my life," Adriana murmured, echoing the smile that started it all. Alara turned, eyes alight. "Ours. And it's just beginning." Monroe receded in the rearview, not erased but honored. A chapter of thorns yielding wisdom. Their road wound south toward galleries and gums where love defied scripts and smiles, once forbidden, illuminated paths unchained. In the heart of it, Adriana found the truth. Humanity's core lay not in conformity's cage, but in the courage to break free, to choose the self, and in doing so lift others toward their own dawn. The end was no tragedy but a testament to mended fractures, to societies bent by persistent grace. And in quiet moments, Adriana would trace Alara's smile, knowing one late-night encounter had rewritten not just her story, but the world's quiet insistence that some loves were always meant to bloom.